Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. And I have the Piedmont duo, Gastonia, Dave Hodges, and
Hello.
What's up, Dave? Welcome back. Earned himself a regular spot on the broadcast. Good stuff, Mr. Hodges.
Thank you so much, Scott and Rick. Just welcoming all of you guys and talking some sports.
And just, Dave Hodges is not related to Dave Hodge of Hockey Night in Canada way back when. So I'm sure he probably wonders if he ever did. And for us old school hockey people, Dave Hodge was an icon back in Canada. So, but I'll tell you, he got the name for this broadcast, and he's definitely got a spot in the broadcast. And right up I-85, we have Rick Curti. What's up, Mr. Curti? How are you?
Hey, Scott. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm getting ready for a good doubleheader today on the Sports Exchange. Later on, I'm going to have Kevin Rand, the head athletic trainer for the Detroit Tigers, who's actually working with the infectious control of George Eichhorn and the Sports Exchange at the top of our hour. But we're leading off with you guys here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Glad to have you guys. I really enjoy having you. So with that said, obviously we know what our subject matter is. So we're going to talk about the fact that there's a report out there that Oliver Perez threatened to leave the Cleveland Indians after Mike Clevenger and Zach Plesac broke the protocol. Call it breach of trust. Adam Plutko called them out, and these players were optioned to the taxi squad. And the problem is they went out with friends in Chicago August 7th, and therefore causing rumblings in the clubhouse. Rule number one: don't cause rumblings in the clubhouse, right, Mr. Hodges?
You know it. Yeah, that's rumblings in the clubhouse are going to lead to the one or the most feared word in professional sports or for any head coach, manager, whatever sport have you. It's distraction. And that's the one word you do not want to hear in a professional clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in enough clubhouses over my lifetime, and I'll tell you what, I've been through the shaving cream things where they stick shaving cream on top of your head. They make you. Those are the fun parts of getting in a clubhouse. And I'll never forget a time when I was in Fort Lauderdale and I was working with the Fort Lauderdale Yankees. And one of the players gave me one of his hats to wear. Problem is, I didn't know about the shaving cream trick where I was wearing the shaving cream. Well, when you're getting it done for you for the first time, for crying out loud, you think you're part of the team, and boy, they know how to make sure you are part of the team. But when you talk about clubhouse camaraderie, however, you don't want to definitely jeopardize that. So, Rick Curti, what are your takes about what transpired in the clubhouse and how these two guys got exiled out of Cleveland?
It's just people being stupid by going out, and then someone else being stupid by getting upset. So, they just said, you know what, we don't need you. So go back to the minor leagues, and it's just we need to move on from this.
Yeah, I mean, at some point they're going to get back in there, but I'm going to tell you something. How do you spell the word wake-up call? That's how you spell
exactly.
Wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he probably told them, we don't care if Dan Plesac your uncle or whatever. Please don't go out.
Right.
Just stay indoors. Just go watch a movie, listen to music, something.
I mean, if these guys didn't learn from the St. Louis Cardinals and the Miami Marlins, what the heck does it take for them to learn?
Yeah, exactly.
These games are dropping like flies.
Yeah, and I mean, you're going to get caught. I mean, that's just the stupid thing. Like, there's so much social media out there, and people got the cameras on their phones, and all you got to do is just press record, and they record you, and boom, you're on Facebook. And look at this guy, look what he's doing.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, the Cleveland Indians are certainly one of the top teams in the American League, and they figure to be in it. Shortened season, long season, doesn't matter. They've been very competitive. They got Terry Francona, who's a manager, so you can't have a more capable manager. And you know what? If Terry Francona gets on your case, you definitely deserve it because he's a player's manager in every sense of the word. So
exactly,
he really is.
Yeah, I mean, certainly one of the better managers. Everybody in Boston knows that he is the manager that broke that long drought in Beantown. But you know what? And I think if there's anybody capable of winning a title in Cleveland, it's definitely Terry Francona. So with that said, let's stay on the COVID kick here a little bit. Anibal Sanchez became the second Washington Nationals pitcher in 4 days to be removed from the stands. Obviously, no fans, and there's a displeasure with the strike zone. And when you have no fans, you're hearing a lot more. You're hearing talk in the dugout. You're hearing talk all over the field. And these umpires are picking up on some of this stuff, no matter where you're located in the ballpark. So, Rick Curti, go ahead. What are your thoughts about Anibal Sanchez?
Well, Strasburg did the same thing, and he got kicked out too. So, I mean, there's no fans. So I guess they're just not listening. I guess they just figure it's a lot of fun. I'm the only one up there. I guess I'm social distancing and wearing a mask, but rules are rules. And if you're going to watch the game, just be quiet, you know. I mean, you're not supposed to be doing it anyway, but just be quiet. Don't complain. And I don't blame the umpires for trying to get lost. So, you know, it's really stupid. They know the rules, but unfortunately, I guess they figure, well, I'm rich and famous and pretty much can do whatever I want to do. And, you know, people just need to grow up and just follow the rules. That's simple.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, most definitely. And, you know, as you guys said, you know, with no other outside noise to, I guess, what an umpire would hear from either dugout during, well, I guess we will just call a regular season. Obviously, you know, regular season fans in the stands, you know, umpires, they know the fans are going to shout at them. They know they're going to say words, and, you know, everyone's going to be umpiring from the stands. The umpires on the field understand that, but, you know, Rick, as you just said, no one else is in the stands. So if expletives are going to come from a certain area, they know it's going to come from you. If you want to curse the umpire, stay in the clubhouse. It doesn't make any sense for you to go out there, because that's just going to put you under a microscope. It's going to put the team under a microscope, and it's going to get to the point where Major League Baseball is going to have to come down and say, hey, if your guys are going to be in the stands, they're going to behave themselves. If not, they're going to be banished to the clubhouse. They could face fines, hopefully not suspensions. Hopefully no team or players will take it that far. But it's kind of with, you know, the Indians pitchers, just follow the rules. Everyone's suffering through this, you know, this pandemic. It's going to pass. It's going to go away. You know, you're getting paid a lot of money to play a kid's game, the game you love. Just behave yourself. And again, if you're going to be shouting at the umpires, go inside. Watch it on a TV. Maybe they got a big screen in the clubhouse, and just have your say there. Just don't do it where you know you're going to be heard and you know you're going to be tossed.
And you know it's going to get expensive because you don't have a lot of games, so for every game you miss, it's a lot more money during a 50 to 60 game season. And I'm going to use the words 50 to 60 game season because we don't know what's going to end up being the case with any of these things. And this situation puts a brand new meaning on hearing a pin drop, doesn't it?
Exactly. I mean, it's quiet there. It's cardboard fans in the stands, and
yeah, right.
You know. And when I saw Strasburg do it, I'm like, "What is he doing up there? They're not supposed to have any fans." And then another idiot does the same thing, and not only did they do it, but they're cursing at the umpires, and you know, and I don't blame the umpire. I look at him like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "Get out of here." You know, and they should find them. They should find them. They're saying, you need, you know, grow up, man. What are you doing? And you're complaining. Of course he's going to hear you. There's nobody there.
Exactly.
It's like a golf tournament right now. It's so quiet there.
Yeah, when the money you lose with suspensions during this in 2020, it adds up quick. You might as well opt out if you're going to get suspended because it's going to get expensive either way.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
So, all right, we'll move on to the next thing. Everybody knows in the history books that Boston's known for the Boston Massacre. But, folks, go out there and let's explain the Boston Red Sox 6-16 record. In last place, Dave Dombrowski, it's called the Dave Dombrowski effect. Okay, the guy that unfortunately is paying the price for it is manager Ron Renickley, who was a thankless job. And they traded Mookie Betts and David Price to the LA Dodgers. Chris Sale has an injury, season ender. Eduardo Rodriguez has a COVID-19 implications. JD Martinez said he's tired of getting his head beat every day. Of course, you know, when the Tigers were losing, the Detroit Tigers, it was tough. But my goodness, what has become the train wreck in Boston? All right, we'll rotate it. All right, Mr. Hodges, what's your observation? It
just seems like there's no leader there. Yeah, when any team is going to basically trade away the centerpiece of the franchise, and of course I'm talking Mookie Betts here, you're going to trade him away, former MVP. Personally, you can get some top tier prospects for that, but if this guy has so much more left in the tank, and again, there's always, maybe Boston doesn't want to pay the salaries he's commanding, and there's other suitors out there. We know, these two teams have a history, the Red Sox and the Dodgers, of making trades. I'm referring back to Manny Ramirez when Manny wanted out of Boston. To me, it just comes down to lack of leadership. And, obviously everybody knows, and, no matter what sport you follow, everyone's going to see this as a throwaway season, whether you're following the NBA, Major League Soccer, or, of course, NFL is not underway yet. But yeah, to me, it all comes down to leadership.
Well, you got to remember, Dave Dombrowski, when he was with the Florida Marlins, I'm not talking Miami Marlins, Florida Marlins built the Marlins to win a championship. They won it, I believe, in 1997. Had the old fire sale. Poor Jim Leland was on the wrong end of that problem. And then, of course, he goes to Detroit. Trades, they pay a lot of big money for those players, depleted the farm system. So here we go. Okay. Boston, speed the clock up. You win your world championship. And now all of a sudden the Red Sox farm system is depleted. It's the win now, which is okay, because obviously your mission is to win a world championship. But boy, you pay a steep price for it at the end. Now, he won't have to worry about that because he's trying to get baseball in Nashville, Tennessee, so you don't have to deplete a farm system that isn't there yet, for a team that isn't there. But, what are your thoughts about the Dave Dombrowski effect, Rick?
Well, there's a reason when he was in Florida, they called him Dave Dombrowski. And, trading away Mookie Betts was dumb. Unless Mookie Betts didn't want to be there, they just didn't want to pay the guy. And then he goes to the Dodgers, and he's going to sign a big old extension with the Dodgers, so he ain't leaving Los Angeles anytime soon. So that was dumb. And the whole Alex Cora thing, the way they handled it was dumb. And he hopefully he's banned from baseball. I mean, what he did was inexcusable, and to me worse than people taking PEDs. They hired a manager who, was with the Astros when the whole cheating thing was going, and people say he didn't do nothing, but hey, if you're part of the Astros and you're you're involved in that cheating thing, you're always going to be mentioned in there. So that didn't help them either, and they just got rid of a lot of good players. And I'm not really surprised. I'm surprised that they're actually 6-16. I didn't think they were going to be that good. So I knew they were going to be terrible, and they have that whole Alex Cora thing hanging over their head right now. So it's going to be a while for them to be competitive. It's going to be a mess there for a while.
But if there's anybody I got to admit I feel sorry for, it's Ron Renick. He inherited a job at the last minute. He had a pretty decent record for the Milwaukee Brewers. They were really relevant in Milwaukee. But then his next managerial experience is taking on a thankless job like he's had. So it's...
it's sort of like Dusty Baker. It's just right. Like, okay, we need a manager. You're very likable because everybody hates us right now. So, and they waited so long. He was the interim manager for forever, and then finally, I guess they made him the manager, and now it's kind of like Dusty Baker. He's like in a no-win situation, and it's just it's been a disaster.
Well, when you look at Ron Renick's numbers, okay. When he was with the Milwaukee Brewers from 2011 to 2015, he managed 673 games and had a 342 and 331 record with a 508 winning percentage. And he was 5-6 in the postseason. So, for the Milwaukee Brewers, to finish with a over 500 mark for a franchise, which, winning certainly doesn't, they've had a very sub 500 winning history with the exception of their lone World Series appearance back in 1982. Ron Renick did a very capable job. Now, obviously, we know about the situation he's in with Boston, but he's in a thankless situation. And, I hope and pray that, regardless of what happens with Ron Renick, that his managerial record won't be judged because of this train wreck that you have in Boston. That's for sure. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, it's a mess, and I don't think he'll be back next year. To be quite honest, I think he'll say, "I'm done. I'm not going to be doing this. This is a disaster." And to do it in Boston, the Boston fans. They're not very, they're kind of like the Philly fans. They'll let you know you stink. They're not very shy about their, opinions. And so that's a really rough place to be 6-16 and you're going to be all over the headlines. And it's just, like I said, it was a disaster from day one when, the whole Astros cheating thing happened with Cora and them getting rid of Mookie Betts, who was such a fan favorite. And yet he signed with the Dodgers and he had no problem getting a big old extension with them. So, and Mookie Betts is doing great right now. He's doing really good in Los Angeles. So, I know that sours on the Red Sox. So it's just been a whole disaster. And I think the fans are saying, you know what, this season doesn't really count anyway because it's because of COVID-19. So maybe we'll get better next season. I doubt it. I think it's going to be going on for quite some time. So, Renick's like in a no-win situation. Just reminds me so much of Dusty Baker. Just a nice guy put in a situation where they're involved in a cheating scandal and they put someone there that can be likable and with all the injuries and all the, cheating stuff going on and, getting rid of all their players. Really not a surprise you're 6-16.
You know, Rick, that's an excellent example. And I'll repeat what I just said. That's an excellent example. Now, I know that Mookie Betts was offered north of $300 million, but he didn't want to stay in Boston. But, so, obviously he's going to get $50 million plus to go to LA. I mean, if he had to leave Boston to get to go to LA, it's not the worst move in the world either. And you get nicer weather. But I think that's probably, I think the Red Sox took the best deal that they could get, knowing that the guy was going to leave. You don't want to certainly have a guy like him leave for nothing. So, you take the best deal you can get. And when he wouldn't commit to them, that they had to unload him. But you're right. That's an excellent example, right? That Rick gave comparing Dusty Baker and Ron Renicky, two nice guys thrust into some very difficult situations. Right, Dave?
And there's always going to be, of course, there's always going to be one manager out there, whether it be a pandemic shortened season or not. Of course, this is the only pandemic shortened season in recent memory. And yeah, I'm with you, Scott, whereas, Ron Renicky, he's had a good career managing ball clubs, and you would hate to see someone who would just have this, I guess what you call an ink blot on your career. And, Rick, I know you mentioned he probably won't be back. Hey, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to come back either. If you have to, again, yes, Boston, they love the Red Sox. They love their baseball. Let's see, it's been 3 World Series championships in 16 years after 86 years with not even one.
Right.
So, the fans are definitely they're going to let you hear it. And in the court of public opinion, they're going to say, well, he had more to work with, with in Milwaukee, whereas, he had nothing to work with here, coming in after the heart of the franchise has just been traded away. And of course, there's always going to be people that are sympathetic for him saying, well, look what he has to work with. Look at the season he had. But yeah, I'm with Rick on this. I don't see him coming back next year. And again, they're 6-16, no pun intended. It's really a no-win situation.
Well, he's going to leave on his own terms without a doubt. I mean, when you think about it, okay, you talk about Chris Sale's injury was bad to begin with. Eduardo Rodriguez having a COVID-19 implications with a heart issue, and then J.D. Martinez having been through this with the Tigers, when they were on the way down. But yeah, you're right. He's going to leave on his own terms without a doubt. Speaking of the Detroit Tigers, the Cleveland Indians just swept the Detroit Tigers over the weekend, and they've won their 20th straight over the Tigers. Next weekend, that record could be tied in Cleveland with 23. The previous record was in 1969 when Baltimore Orioles defeated the Kansas City Royals 23 straight. Unfortunately for the Detroit Tigers, they're on the record that they may not want to have to deal with. These infamous records in my hometown seem to be, whether it's the Lions' long road losing streaks or whatever, futility losing streaks are not fun. But how does a team become so dominant over another over the course of over 20 games in a row? And this could be 23 unless the Tigers can get it figured out now. again, the Tigers under Ron Gardenhire are still under a rebuild, and they had, they lost 117 contests. But, Rick, what are your thoughts about a team dominating the other one the way they are?
It happens. I mean, it happens. I remember when the Braves were like on top and going to the World Series every year, and then there was one team that would always beat them, and you can figure out how can they lose to this one team and who's not even that good, and yet they can win 100 games, and that's just how it is. Unfortunately, right now the Tigers kind of stink right now, and they are rebuilding, but they're not very, very good anymore right now. And the Indians are just a really good, solid team. Terry Francona is one of the best managers in all of baseball. He won 2 World Series. He almost won a third with Cleveland. Getting very, very close. He's just a great manager, and there are just some teams that just do better than other people. That's just how it is. You just can't explain it. But it could turn around real quick, or maybe the Tigers can win a whole bunch of games in a row against them. But there's always one team that just has your number, no matter how good you are, no matter how bad you are. Right now, the Indians are they just got it right now against the Tigers, and the Tigers right now are not very, very good.
Well, Rick, with all due respect, the Tigers are 9-10 right now, so they're not as bad as a lot of other teams. And just some developing news that took place today is they did promote their top pitching prospects, Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal, and infield prospect Isaac Paredes to their major league roster on Monday. Paredes came from the Chicago Cubs in a trade that sent Justin Wilson to the Cubs. So, at this particular point during the year when you're certainly, I hate to say it's an extended spring training with the short amount of games, but, now's the time where it can't hurt to go ahead and bring in some of these players. Now, let me just give you a little bit of information for Tigers fans that are listening, that Mize has been the crown jewel of the Tigers system since they selected him first overall in 2018. He rose to the minor league ranks with relatively ease, posting a 2.7 earn one average with a 90.97 whip. Only Louis Adiola would know what that is anyways. And 120 strikeouts and 123 innings over 2 seasons. He was supplanted in the team's prospect rankings when Spencer Torkelson, who's another fine prospect that they could expect, was drafted first overall. So, and let me go over the particulars of some of these players, okay? Skubal, meanwhile, was a 9th round pick the same year as Mize. He burst into the scene in 2019, producing a 2.42 earned run average with a 1.01 whip, 179 strikeouts, and 122 2/3 innings across 2 minor league levels. He underwent Tommy John surgery in 2016, costing him the 2017 college season. And at full strength in 2019, he jumped near the top of the organization's prospect ranking. So, and then, so general manager Al Avila said that while injuries, most recently to Ivan Nova's IL stint for a triceps tendonitis, played a part in the call-up decision, the prospects were prepared. Now, let's move on to Paredes for a minute. The team acquired Paredes from the Chicago Cubs at the 2017 trade deadline for reliever Justin Wilson, and in his first Double-A season in 2019, he had 282 with 13 home runs. So, and he's going to be batting 8th in the order. He'll play third base in his debut tonight. So, so when you talk about the fact that the team is 9-10, yes, they've had better days. The Tigers are 9-10, and they're in the thick of a crowded playoff race, thanks to the fact they do have the extended postseason set to feature 16 teams instead of the usual 10. Bear in mind, though, Ron Gardenhire is in the final year of a 3-year contract. So I've given you a lot. So why don't you tell me how both of you process the information I just gave you? And Rick, you continue, and then you can chime in after that. Okay, Dave?
Okay.
Well, Gardenhire is a good coach, and so I hope they extend his contract because he's doing a really good job there. He did a good job with the Twins, and like I said, he was put in a situation where the team was they were terrible, and so he has improved them. So hopefully, if I was the Tigers, I would extend his contract. He's a good manager, and so they're getting those right components together to be a good team, but it's going to be a while. And like I said, they just haven't been good for quite a while. and it's a shortened season, so we'll see what happens. But, the Indians have just, for some reason, got their number, and that's just how it is. And, and I'm sure there's another team that will have the Indians number, and we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting when we have the extended playoffs, how good the teams will be. So we'll see. Only time will tell.
Well, the hope is that they don't hit the 23 mark. Knowing the Tigers, they'll probably get to 22, and all of a sudden, you get one or two short of that record, and everybody forgets about it. All right, Dave, you go ahead and you can chime in on this one as well, please.
Well, I can definitely see, with them bringing up some of their minor league studs, they know they need help. I'm looking at the standings now. They're only 3.5 games back of the Twins, who are in first. The Tigers, they're not in the bottom of the AL Central. That belongs to Kansas City. Of course, they have as many wins, but Kansas City also has 3 more losses than the Tigers. And as Rick mentioned, they're just across any sport, there's going to be teams that just have the number of a certain manager, head coach, whatever it may be. I remember when Steve Spurrier was head coach of University of South Carolina football, the team that always gave that man fits was Vanderbilt. That man he had problems against the Commodores. And, no matter, again, and maybe in boxing, you could be so dominant over countless opponents, but there's just one person that will have your ticket. One person will have your number. And, and the thing, look back many years ago, I think it might have been 2004, when Pedro Martinez says, maybe I should just call the Yankees my daddy.
I remember that.
And of course, and then the next time he went and pitched in New York, every single person from the nosebleed seats to the man behind home plate was chanting, "Who's your daddy?"
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Whenever Pedro was on the mound, some players will want to admit it, some players will not. And, one thing I've always enjoyed about, following the game of baseball is the memory that these players have. I remember many years ago, a good friend of mine who lives up in Asheville, loves going to the tourist games, Dale Murphy, the Murph, a longtime, fan, loved Atlanta Brave, was up there giving a speech, and he would like to quote Greg Maddux. And he would, I think when he got to the Braves, or when Maddux got there, that he would say, Greg, you're one of my great teammates, and I was, I'm honored to be 2-24 against you. And then Maddux replied, "You're 2-26." So, Rick, as you said, just no matter across all kinds of sports, there's just going to be some team that knows how to play you well, and there's just something about them. They're going to give you fits, and you just have to deal with it the best you can, and hopefully that day will be your day.
Very good. I like the banner between both of you on that. Very good. But I really like the Pedro Martinez, "Who's your daddy?" That's definitely one that's definitely stands out in a lot of people's mind, because I remember him saying that the Yankees indeed had his number. All right, on to the world champion Washington Nationals. They're in 4th place, 8-11 mark. Steven Strasburg left. He left Friday throwing just 16 pitches. It was a nerve issue that was in the thumb and the throwing hand that was actually diagnosed as carpal tunnel. Manager Dave Martinez doesn't plan to have him back anytime soon. And Strasburg, obviously the World Series MVP, 10.80 ERA, and he paid him a whopping 7 years, $245 million contract. I always worry about pitchers getting a lot of money, but Strasburg is the face of this franchise, and he stayed when Bryce Harper decided to hit the road. So, David Hodges, what are your thoughts about the Strasburg situation?
Well, of course, it's never good, no matter what team you are, when you're such a baseball, your ace is, it's going to have to go on the DL. As you said, it's with carpal tunnel. So, a couple of weeks you're going to be without him there, and there's going to be many times where he's going to have to throw simulated games in the clubhouse or in their, in-stadium pitching area. So, and his career has kind of been marred by injuries. He had injuries when he came out of San Diego State. And it's, talking about Ron Renicky, whereas, you don't want this season to, to tarnish his legacy. I mean, whereas, obviously Steven Strasburg, you don't want injuries to tarnish his. But yeah, it's just going to have to let it run its course. And, as Martinez said, they just have to see if they can get him healthy. Don't rush him back, which I know a lot of people or a lot of managers will do that. But again, in a pandemic season, as I've called this for any sport, it's basically going to be the throwaway season. Whereas everyone's going to say, well, you only had this many games, so you were able to get this, many more games out of your pitchers and blah, blah, blah. But, they're going to have to be careful with him. Again, face of the franchise, World Series MVP, they gave him, they're paying him, out the you-know-what. So
right.
Don't rush him back. This is when you have to rely on your other starters to really step up and say, hey guys, all right, big man's on the bench for a while. We need your A game here. As Tiger Woods would say, we need you to bring your A game today. Of course, he'd say, I didn't bring my A game today, but Dave Martinez would tell his guys, whenever they're going on the bump, we need your A game.
Well, bear in mind, you're talking about Steven Strasburg. Remember, they were very cautious of him early in his career, and why not? They actually shut him down during a pennant race once he hit an innings limit. So, I got to give the Nationals credit the way they've handled his career. Kawhi Leonard would have loved that situation because then what he had to endure with the San Antonio Spurs, because at least the organization cared about him. So the Nationals have always handled Strasburg, I think, really, really well. But no, you're not going to see Strasburg back in 2020. Throwaway season, you bet. Now, Strasburg's done for 2020. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, yeah, I'd be nervous with Strasburg. I mean, he had Tommy John surgery very early in his career, and now he's got carpal tunnel. So, yeah, I'd just shut him down for the rest of the season and say, see you in 2021. It ain't worth it. So, you're always nervous to give your pitchers that much money. But he had such a terrific year last year, and he won the World Series MVP. If you're going to be a free agent, sort of like Joe Flacco, you might as well do it. You might as well do it at the end of your contract, and you get a big contract extension, get all this money, and Major League Baseball, it's all guaranteed. So I applaud Strasburg for signing that big deal, and now right now some injuries might be creeping up on him, but carpal tunnel, that I've had family members have had it. That's no joke. It really isn't. And you're a pitcher, so you're going to be using your arm to throw. So they need to shut him down for the rest of the season and just hope that it's not going to be something that's going to hurt his career, because he has been really banged up and he just has a lot of issues with his arm. So, but they're going to have to shut him down, and I'm sure he'll be all right for 2021.
Yeah, I have nerve issues in my hands too, and it's not a fun situation. If there's a guy that has to really step up, it's Anibal Sanchez. Anibal Sanchez has had such an up and down career, and he obviously resuscitated it in Washington. And there's only so much you can get out of Max Scherzer. He does need help back there for sure. So, but yeah, I think, but you know what? Steven Strasburg has been nothing but good for the Washington Nationals organization. And in a throwaway season, you might as well say enough is enough and let him heal the best you can. All right. And then our next chosen topic before we start talking about a professional baseball team out there will be the anniversary of 100 years with the Negro Leagues celebrated over the weekend. And Dave, you said you've been to the museum in Kansas City. But before you even get to talk about it, Rick Curti, what are your thoughts about the Negro League going 100 years?
That's amazing. They had some of the best players that come out of the Negro League. You had Josh Gibson, of course, Satchel Paige, just so many great players that really unfortunately never had the opportunity to go into Major League Baseball. I mean, Josh Gibson, we would never know how great he would have been in Major League Baseball, and Satchel Paige came into Major League Baseball in his 50s, and it's amazing that he pitched at that age. And so I love the Negro Leagues. To me, they had some of the greatest players there, and unfortunately, because of the color of their skin, they were never given that opportunity to play in Major League Baseball. So I love them. I think they're great, and we need to have more players for the Negro Leagues in the Hall of Fame, because to me, they were like the best players of that time. They could compete with anybody in that era of Major League Baseball.
Okay, Dave, talk about your experience in Kansas City with the Negro League Museum.
Yeah, it was really, it was awe-inspiring. I was out there visiting my aunt who lived in Clay Center, Kansas, which was about 3 hours northwest of Kansas City. And the day myself, my mother, and my grandmother, we were flying back to North Carolina. We spent the night in Kansas City, and the flight was not till 5 o'clock. And right down the street from the hotel was the Negro League Museum. It's also adjoined with, I believe, the National, or well, I may be messing the name up here, but the Jazz Museum. Obviously, celebrating the music, the jazz, the greats of jazz music, and we weren't able to take in that because we spent so much time in the Negro League Museum. But just walking through there and seeing some of the artifacts, they had jerseys. I saw baseballs signed by Jackie Robinson, signed by Satchel Paige, and really to just be there, you could feel just the soul of the game was there. I remember many years ago, Rick, you might remember this also, back when the Knights were still playing down in Fort Mill, they invited Negro League legend Buck O'Neil and Minnie Minoso down to throw out, I guess, what you call the ceremonial first pitches, whereas, they both had their own catcher and they threw the pitch out. Well, I remember that summer, Buck O'Neil was basically on a nationwide ballpark tour. And I read the book about him that was written by Joe Posnanski, who actually I had the privilege of meeting Scott the first time I ever went to the National Sports Media Association banquet when it was still right up the road in Salisbury. I think he was being honored as the Sports Writer of the Year. I know he's got a couple of books on the game of baseball, and after Buck O'Neil and Minnie Minoso threw out the first pitches, they came and they signed autographs for everybody. Well, I'm standing there in line, and as they're coming through, Minnie Minoso just walked to the table, but Buck O'Neil is actually shaking the hand of everybody that came to the table, or that was standing in line, waiting for him to get to the table. And as he comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, Slim, how you doing?" And well, for people that don't know, I am 6'3", and on a good day, I weigh 175 pounds.
Wow!
But just to just to see the man, to meet the man who was basically who was the epitome of the Negro Leagues. They played for love of the game. Obviously, the money wasn't there. And Rick, as you mentioned, these players that were kept out of Major League Baseball because of the color barrier. Just imagine what Major League Baseball. Imagine the era they could have had if the color line had been broken before Jackie Robinson. And one thing I enjoyed, of course, seeing all the artifacts, and actually I still have 3 posters that are still framed and hanging on my wall. I pay, I think, $200 a piece to have these posters professionally framed. They were it was a set of 3 from the Negro League Museum. I got those posters and I believe a couple of books. But there was this gigantic wall of autographed baseballs of all, whether it be political dignitaries, musicians, celebrities, or just any living Negro League players had come through, and they would sign a baseball, and it would go on the wall. And I would let anyone that's listening, if you're going to Kansas City anytime soon, of course, again, obviously there's COVID protocol, but non-COVID trip, if you go to Kansas City, go look or just go walk through there, and you will be, again, it's awe-inspiring, and you'll develop just a new passion for the game just by seeing the passion that they have for the game.
Well, I'll say it's on my bucket list thanks to you. So there you go, without a doubt. Okay, and our final topic of the night is one that we just came with on the fly. Name the Gastonia professional baseball team. And no, Rick Curti, don't try to pull this garbage like you do on my Mount Rushmores, where you're going to skirt the system and add more than you're allowed. Although we will do a broadcast here with you and your Mount Rushmores, but you got to remember they're only 4. I know you like to. Hey, although Rick, you're like I am. If you can gain a little edge here and just slip that extra one in there, you'll do it. So no, I'm not picking on you too bad, But I'm telling you, though, Dave, you should see, I've had Rick Curti on another network, and I tell him Mount Rushmore, he needs a mathematics lesson that he seems to think Mount Rushmore means 5, not 4. But I give Rick Curti, a lot of credit for trying. He gets an A for effort, bad for execution, would say 4. But we're going to give him another opportunity down the road with us to come up with another Mount Rushmore later on. And we'll make sure we devote some time to it. So, all right. So each of us gets one crack at naming the Gastonia professional baseball team. And you know what, Curti? Since I'm picking on you first, I'm picking you first. Go ahead.
Okay, well, this is a name that I've had for a while. I actually came up with sketches of uniforms. I had a friend come up with a logo, and I said they wanted to name the team after Gastonia, something that represented Gastonia. So I came up with the Gastonia Spindles, and the reason I call them that is because of the textile mills back in the heyday. And doing my research, I know one of their biggest manufacturers was cotton, but it was also a thread for sewing. So I thought, okay, maybe we could put something that's sewing, spindles, thread, and I thought, there you go, Gastonia Spindles. And the colors that I chose are the colors of the Franklin Urban Sports Entertainment. It was black and red, sort of like fire. So I used those colors, and I came up with the Gastonia Spindles that to me would be a great representation of Gastonia.
For some reason or another, you made a compelling argument for that one. I think that's pretty good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, go ahead, Dave.
Well, Rick, you must have been looking at my notes because I was actually thinking of the Millers.
There you go. I like that. I like that one too.
Again, obviously, honoring the history of the mill towns that at one time dotted the entire southeastern region. But one thing that came to mind was something to do with, say, like the cannons. Since the district is called the Fuse, the Franklin Urban Sports and Entertainment District, again, where are you going to find the Fuse? On a cannon.
True.
So which one are you taking? Which one are you taking? Are you taking the Fuse or are you taking the Millers?
I'm going to take the cannons here.
The cannons?
Yeah, or...
no, we got Brett Favre on the broadcast.
I don't want to put a soccer spin on it, but like, Arsenal. The team over in England, the English Premier League, which is owned by American billionaire Stan Kroenke. Their logo is a cannon. But that right there is just the name of the cannons is to go along with obviously the district they're naming that area. I would be happy with either one. I guess I could say I'm probably 55-45 to cannons over the Millers.
Yeah, but now all of a sudden you just change your birth certificate to Brett Favre, Hodges. Really? You did. I thought I was talking, well, okay, Brett Favre number 2 is what we'll call you for the program. Okay. This guy's waffling here. So now I'm picking on Curti, to come up with 4 Mount Rushmores instead of 5, and now I got Dave Hodges throwing me a curveball. Then again, curveballs on the broadcast, 108 Stitches baseball talk are appropriate, so you're okay, Hodges. So we got Gastonia Cannons, all right. Is that your pick?
That is my pick. Colors, I would go with a dark blue, red, and kind of like maybe like a goldish yellow color. It's definitely the blue and the red. Again, probably a kind of a goldish yellow or maybe kind of a little light orange mixed in.
So now we are on a broadcast here tonight, which people are definitely listening to. And we got Dave Hodges has been getting 9 million nicknames, and now I feel like Chris Berman, okay? We got Brett Favre here, okay, the Waffler, because he can't decide what nickname he wants, okay? Which is okay, because it means that more people will start to get their wheels turning like I always do, okay? So we got the Gastonia Cannon / Millers, okay? And now we have to come up with a new nickname for Gastonia Dave because he doesn't know what nickname he wants, all right? That'll be our project for next week. Thanks, Mr. Hodges, okay? No relation to the Hodges.
Happy to help.
What's that?
I'm happy to help.
Oh, I'm sure.
Anything that gets, gets the wheels going, in people's minds, and get the, I guess what's the as my voice coach would say, get the creativity flowing.
You're
Not
doing
that you find gentlemen are creative, but just something that makes people think a little bit more.
You're doing that. You get an A for effort there. All right, I'll go ahead and I'll play the old school game with you guys, and I have a reason for it. And who knows? I'll go with Gastonia Rangers. I was the director of public relations there in '87. That was my first job there. I would go with the blue and white. I don't know if there was any red in their colors, but I think it was blue and white combination, and go old school when they play at San Legion Park. Is that the easy way to do it? Probably, but what the heck. I'll go Rangers. I'm pretty decisive. But I actually think your suggestions are better, but I have to go back to my history, and that's what my history is. And I'm not waffling there. Mine was definitely set in stone. But Spindles is good. But Dave, I will give you credit, though. With the Cannons and the Millers, you make a compelling case for both of them for sure. So when I get Dave Gorin on the line, okay, I'll have to tell him that, I'm glad I'm working with Dave Hodges, okay? But Dave Hodges is definitely, it can be actually classified in the case of Brett Favre. So go figure. And we're going to get Gorin on one of these days anyhow. It don't matter. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So just so you know, folks, you're listening to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Proud to be joined by Dave Hodges and Rick Curti. And you guys do a great job on Monday night. Our version of Monday Night Baseball for sure. So with that said, okay, Dave Hodges, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. And of course, you get to do that every Monday.
Well, thank you, Scott. Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Dave Talks Sports, and you can find me on Facebook, Dave Divino, Divino Hodges. I gave my name Divino as I'm also a diehard soccer fan, big fan of the Brazilian national team, so I figured I'd give myself a little Brazilian soccer name. So again, on Facebook, Dave Divino Hodges, and on Twitter at Dave Talks Sports.
Very good. And Dave's talking baseball here, although we'll see if he talks other sports if we give him an opportunity. Oh, he will at some point.
Oh, I so can.
Oh, who knows? We might create a special edition of the Sports Exchange with you guys, and you have a chance to talk about everything. But right now, we'll stick with the baseball show. But there's some possibilities as time goes on. Rick Curti, you know the drill. Go for it.
Well, you can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. We all have an email address at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB. I'm also on there at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats, and I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball, and I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti, and you can contact me on any of those social media websites.
And you can also find Rick Curti at SouthFloridaTribune.com as well. He's our social media consultant, without a doubt. So don't forget that one, Rick. Although you leave that to me to do it. I have no problem. You have plenty on your grocery list to talk about, and I'll have plenty on mine as well. Just so you know, you're listening to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. These broadcasts can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So I'll repeat, since I always talk too fast, and I'm, of course, what would you expect? Anything less? No. So Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me at Tribune South. That's the @ Tribune South. Have a Facebook page, South Florida Tribune. Instagram, South Florida Tribune. YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. The website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You'll find that we have media distribution partners as well as our columnists as well. You can email me over at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And on LinkedIn, you can connect with me. Scott Morganroth will be more than happy to go ahead and connect with you on LinkedIn. So any closing thoughts, guys? You did a great job tonight, as usual.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. That's I've been looking at over the past few days, baseball-wise.
What about you, Rick?
I just want to let people know you can go on to name the new Gastonia baseball team. They have a website at www.gastoniabaseball.com, and you can submit your name on there. And the deadline is August 31st for all the submissions.
And speaking on behalf of my co-host tonight, I want to tell everybody out there to be safe out there. Kudos to our frontline heroes, doctors, nurses, Mask up, America. Don't take this virus seriously. You can't, we've done enough broadcasts on this network to begin with to realize that COVID-19 doesn't seem to be making an exit strategy anytime soon. So mask up, social distance, and kudos to the people out there that are helping, because I'll tell you what, if you aren't affected, I know you probably know of people that are affected. Until we can get a vaccine and all those things in place, take this virus seriously, and I hope you don't get it. Follow the necessary protocols. I won't say that Mike Clevenger and Zach Plezak did it. A bunch of other people don't, but don't put yourself in that category for sure. So on behalf of David Hodges and Rick Curti, my name is Scott the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and we look forward to doing it again soon. Good night, everybody.